Hey, it's Christy Friesen here, and I'm all gloved up because today I'm going to show you how to take an ordinary metal bezel and use epoxy clay to add all kinds of metal and crystal components to make it nice and exciting. Let's do it. Today I'm going to use Cerulean, which is an epoxy clay made by Swarovski. I happen to like this brand very much, but another really good brand is Crystal Clay, and you want to start off with 2 equal parts. So I already cut and measured my 2 equal parts. I've got my gloves on because I'm working with resin, and you don't want that all over your hands during the mixing stage. And I have good ventilation because there are fumes when it comes to anything epoxy, and you want to minimize that. So you're going to mix and mix and mix until this is thoroughly blended. Okay, so now that my epoxy clay is thoroughly mixed, I have absolutely no streaks showing. I'm just going to set it on a piece of Teflon or wax paper if you don't have Teflon, and I'll use it as I need it. I can get rid of the gloves now, but I'm going to keep a handy wet wipe so that I periodically will wash my hands so that we have no epoxy residue. You can use any kind of metal bezel. I am using a creative art form, which is something from my own product line. And anything that you have, I would suggest that you give it a nice little wipe with a wet wipe first to remove any of the excess fingerprints that might be on there. Finger oil does interfere a little bit. And then I'm going to take a 4/0 steel wool and kind of give it a nice little dusting in the area that I'm going to use the epoxy clay. This will just kind of prepare the surface. Now remember that 4/0 steel wool, when you do this, will leave all kinds of little crummy residue. Maybe get something and brush that away before we start. Okay, this is prepped. I'm going to touch it minimally, and let's get to work. So besides my wonderful creative art form and my piece of epoxy that's already thoroughly mixed, I'm going to be using a wonderful cast leaf from the Anna Bronze collection and some wonderful different castings and vintage reproduction pieces from the Bisou Boutique collection and some interesting fun chatons that I got from Nun Design. All right, so I've already given some thought about what should go where, so you can take a little time designing or you can just wing it. It's fine either way. So I'm going to take a little piece of epoxy clay. I already know that I kind of want this piece to rest in there. So I'm kind of looking to see where this epoxy clay needs to go. I've chosen black because anything that's showing when it's black just kind of looks a little bit more classy. And I am going to continue to work on this piece of Teflon so that any of my epoxy clay that goes down onto the surface doesn't attach itself thoroughly and permanently to something like a tile or paper. Again, wax paper will do just fine. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to press it in place so you can kind of see what we've got going on here. So I've pushed it here, and you can see from the back side that it's got quite a bit of grabbing going on. And I'm going to just kind of push it a bit so my connection is nice and secure. And it can go right up to or even on to the back if you want. Now I'm going to look at that front side. There's a bit of goo sticking out, but I have plans for that, so I'm not too worried about it yet. There's our first little bit of embellishment. Now the next thing I wanted to do is take some of our bigger flowers and sort of cover over this area so that we don't see. Remember I told you I had a plan? We don't see so much of that goo. So I'm going to take a little ball of this, press it onto the back of my flower, like that, and decide where I want it. I'm going to pinion this right over here. Now let's get another one. Little ball on the back. Doesn't need to be too big. Roll it on, press it on, and let's see where that might look nice. How about one more just a little farther up and sort of interlocking, so that makes a fun little design. Let's look at what we've got so far. What do you think? That arrangement's kind of nice, huh? Now we'll add maybe just a couple little small flowers and some crystal, but don't forget, wipe those fingers. You don't want buildup of epoxy clay. It's not good for you to be in contact with epoxy for any length of time. Plus, it's a glue, so it'll dry on your fingers, and that's dumb. All right, we're on to the next thing. Maybe I want to add a little flower inside of a flower. Oh, nothing could be more simple than with epoxy clay. I'm going to take a little ball, stick it in the middle of a flower. Boop. If you make the sound effects, it does work better. Then I'm going to take that secondary filigree bit and stick it in there. Boop. And you see how that squishes out through the center. Let me get it up close so you can see. Of course you can't. I'm way down here. See how that squishes right out of the center? Kind of like right out. That is the perfect place to add a crystal. So I'm going to take my crystal katana, because those are the best. Pick up a crystal. Whoop, goodbye, crystal. Let me pick that up and press it right into that gunk. Can you see what I've done? And I can use the back of the katana or my finger to make sure that that thoroughly presses into the epoxy clay. So now look what you've got. You've got this larger metal, a smaller metal, and a crystal. Now I'm just going to do that all over the place until I'm happy with it. All right, let's just take a look. And you are done. Just let it air dry for 24 hours and it's ready to use.